We were fighting again. Not screaming, not breaking dishes, just that tight, icy kind of fighting where every word cuts deeper because it's quiet. This time it was over something stupid. I'd asked if she wanted to take a walk after dinner. Just a walk. No big plan, just some fresh air together. She snapped. "I don't owe you closeness," she said. Just like that. Like she'd been holding it in for years and finally let it slip. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to stop me cold. I stood there with my plate in my hand, blinking at her like I'd just heard someone else's voice come out of her mouth. "You what?" I asked. She didn't even look at me, just grabbed her glass of water and started walking off toward the hallway. "You act like I'm supposed to just want to be around you all the time." I didn't move. Couldn't. It felt like someone took a shovel to my gut. That wasn't frustration. That wasn't a bad day. That was something deeper. Like she'd been thinking it for a long time and finally decided to say it out loud. I said nothing. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because anything I said would have just made me look pathetic. Like I was begging her to pretend she still cared. She disappeared into the bedroom and shut the door behind her like it was any regular Tuesday night. And I stood there in the kitchen, staring at the half-eaten dinner, wondering when the hell things had gotten this far off track. My hands were still wet from washing dishes, and I didn't even dry them. Just leaned on the counter, heart pounding, ears hot. That night, I barely slept. I lay there on the edge of the bed, her turned away from me like always, and my brain wouldn't shut up. I kept playing it back. Every word, every look, every little moment I'd ignored or explained away. I didn't even realize how long I'd been trying to pretend things were fine. By morning, I stopped lying to myself. Quick note, before we go further, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. She was already in the shower by the time I got up, and I didn't even bother knocking on the door. I just stood in the hallway, listening to the water run, and felt like a stranger in my own house. That was the day it finally hit me. Something had shifted, and there was no going back to how things used to be. I didn't say a damn thing that morning. I made my coffee, grabbed my boots, and left the house without a word. Not mad, not sulking, just done. Something in me had shifted overnight. I wasn't going to beg her to care anymore. That became my new routine. I pulled back, slow and quiet. No more asking her how her day was. No more checking in. I just started watching. Not like a creep, just paying attention. And once I did, I couldn't unsee it. The way her face barely moved when I came home excited about something at work. The way she scrolled her phone while I talked. I'd show her something I fixed in the house or tell her about a funny story from the job site, and she'd hit me with a half nod or a flat cool. That was it. One night, I brought home her favorite ice cream, just to test it. Set it on the counter. She didn't even say thanks, just tossed it in the freezer without looking up from her tablet. It wasn't just the little things. It was all the effort I'd poured into that house, that marriage, and how little it seemed to matter. I started remembering stuff. Weekends I skipped with my buddies because she needed help with some family thing. Late nights spent helping her sort through tax paperwork she didn't want to deal with. Birthday surprises I'd pulled off while she gave me a gas station card and called it even. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere along the way, I became background noise in my own damn life. Just the guy who handled the garbage and paid the bills. One evening I got home, parked in the driveway, and just sat in my truck. Porch light was on. House looked the same, but I didn't want to go inside. That was the first time that thought really hit me. I leaned back in the seat and just stared through the windshield, engine off, hands in my lap. It wasn't about one fight anymore. It was all of it. Every ignored moment. Every empty response. The garage light clicked on, motion sensor. Probably her passing through to the laundry. I didn't move. I sat there for almost 40 minutes before finally dragging myself in. She was on the couch watching some reality show with her earbuds in. Didn't even glance up. I walked past her, straight to the bedroom, and shut the door. Next couple weeks, same pattern. I went quiet. Not angry quiet, just disconnected. I started sleeping closer to the edge of the bed. Stopped waiting for her to join me before turning off the light. We still did the day-to-day, bills, dishes, whatever, but the heart of it was gone. She didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, but didn't care enough to ask. I'd go out to the backyard in the evenings and sit in the plastic chair by the shed, beer in hand, just listening to nothing. One night, while folding laundry, she finally said something. "You've been real quiet lately." I didn't even look up. Just kept folding. Guess I ran out of things to say. She didn't respond. Not even a sigh. Just walked off like that was fine. That's when I knew for sure. It wasn't the arguing that wore me down. It was being the only one who gave a damn whether we were okay or not. I'd held up my end, tried to keep the connection alive, but I wasn't about to keep pouring myself into someone who couldn't be bothered to notice I was fading. By the third week, I wasn't even waiting for her to talk. I was done fishing for scraps. Every night, I sat in my truck just a little longer. And every time I opened that front door, I felt more like a guest than a husband. Eventually, I stopped even trying to fake it. No more, "How was your day?" No more little updates about mine. I'd come home, kick off my boots, and sit in silence. If she talked, I'd give short answers. If she didn't, even better. At first, it was like nothing changed. She sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, earbuds in, same as always. I was right there, 6 feet away, and she might as well have been on a different planet. I guess I expected her to notice faster, but she didn't. So I waited. Couple days in, she started poking. Not in any obvious way, just little jabs, like she was testing me. "You always this moody?" Or just trying to make a point. I didn't respond, just kept eating. Next day it was, "Let me guess, you're gonna give me the silent treatment all week?" I took a sip of water and stared at the TV. Not a word. She huffed and walked off. It went on like that for a while. Snide little comments, sideways looks, like she was daring me to blow up so she could say, "See, you're the problem." But I didn't bite. I just let her stew in the silence she used to love so much. The same silence she created every time I tried to connect. After a week or two, the tone shifted. She brought me a cup of coffee one morning, just set it down in front of me like it was nothing. No explanation, no small talk. I nodded, didn't thank her. Later that week she asked, "Want to watch something together tonight?" "Not really," I said, without even looking up from my phone. She stood there for a second like she didn't know what to do with that answer. Then she walked off. I wasn't being cruel. I was just tired of chasing something that wasn't chasing me back. I'd spent years trying to earn affection like it was some kind of reward for good behavior. I needed to know, if I stopped playing the part, would she even care? Or did she just hate the idea of not being in control? She tried again a couple nights later. Cooked dinner. Real dinner. Not her usual frozen meal or takeout. "There's enough for you if you're hungry," she said. I said, "Cool," and grabbed a plate without looking at her. I sat at the kitchen table and ate in silence. She sat across from me. First time in months. No phone, no earbuds, just her and the food. I didn't ask her anything. Didn't comment on the meal. Just ate and left my dish in the sink. It was all calculated, not in a cruel way, but in a controlled one. I wasn't going to reward a couple small gestures with open arms. I needed to see consistency, effort, something real. Not just guilt or discomfort. One night while I was folding laundry in the living room, she said, "You've changed." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just stopped pretending things were fine." She opened her mouth like she had something else to say, but nothing came out. Just this frustrated little breath before she sat back down and stared at the TV again. That told me everything. She was uncomfortable, not with the silence, but with the fact that it wasn't hers anymore. She wasn't the one pulling away now, and that rattled her. The next morning, she made breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, even bacon. Set a plate on the table and tried a soft smile. I ate it. Didn't say a word. I wasn't trying to be cold. I just needed to know if she really wanted to fix what was broken, or if she just hated watching me stop chasing her. It was late, maybe 10:30, and we were both in bed, backs turned, same as always. Lights off, quiet except for the ceiling fan ticking. Then out of nowhere, she asked, "Are you mad at me?" I didn't roll over, just stared at the wall. "No," I said. "I'm just done trying harder than you do." There was a long pause. No breathing, no shifting, like she froze up. What's that supposed to mean? I sat up, turned on the lamp. It means I'm tired of being the one who gives a damn. About us. About trying. She blinked like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. Yeah? Tell me what part's unfair. Me asking for basic connection? Or you acting like it's a chore? She didn't answer, just stared at the blanket like it might save her. I turned off the light and laid back down. Go to sleep. Next morning, she moved around the kitchen like she was walking on glass. Barely said a word. Just sipped her coffee and waited. I could feel her watching me, like she expected I'd come around, say I was out of line, smooth it over like always. But I didn't. I grabbed my thermos and walked out the door without saying goodbye. Around noon, The text started. We need to talk. You're being distant. Can you please respond? I saw every one of them. Didn't open any. Just locked my phone and got back to work. When I got home that night, she was waiting, arms crossed, standing near the hallway like she'd been rehearsing. We need to talk. I walked past her, dropped my keys on the counter. I saw the texts. And I turned to face her. You want to talk now? After weeks of silence and shrugs? After you told me you don't owe me closeness? Her mouth opened, but I didn't give her the chance. You made it clear, remember? You said it like it was a fact, like I was stupid for expecting anything more. She shook her head. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, I snapped. And if that's the deal, then maybe I don't owe you anything either. Not effort. Not loyalty. Hell, maybe not even coming home every night. She stepped back like I'd shoved her. You're twisting things. No, I'm finally saying them out loud. You've had all the power in this marriage for years. You decide when we talk, when we touch, when we matter. I just follow. That's not true, she said, voice shaky. Yeah? Then name the last time you reached for me without me reaching first. Go ahead. Silence. I'm not playing anymore, I said. You want a marriage where we only show up when it's convenient? Fine, but I get to decide what I show up for. She was breathing hard now, blinking fast. I didn't know you were this resentful. Maybe if you listened once in a while, you would have. Her shoulders dropped. So what now? I don't know, but I'm not going to keep begging to matter in my own house. She took a step forward. Can we just sit and talk like adults? I'm not in the mood for a speech, I cut in, and I'm not interested in hearing why this is somehow still my fault. Her jaw clenched. I never said it was your fault. You didn't have to. Your silence did the talking for years. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and headed to the backyard, leaving her standing there in the hallway. She didn't follow. I sat down in that plastic chair by the shed, cracked the bottle open, and listened to the quiet. She'd finally heard me. Not sure if it mattered to her, but it damn sure mattered to me. I came back inside after finishing that beer. She was still standing in the hallway, arms crossed, eyes red. I walked past her without saying a word. You're being unfair, she snapped, voice shaky. I turned, slow. Unfair? After everything I've swallowed over the years, that's what you've got? She stepped forward. You're throwing everything back at me like it was all one-sided. You think I didn't try? I kept my voice level. I think you only noticed I was drowning when I finally stopped kicking. She let out this frustrated breath and sat down hard on the couch. You're acting like I never cared. Like none of it meant anything. I leaned against the wall. It meant something. To me. But if this marriage is just a list of conditions, then I'm setting mine now. She stared at me, waiting. I'm not going to keep showing up for someone who treats closeness like a favor. That's not marriage. That's a transaction. And I'm done paying for something I don't even get. Her lip trembled. I don't know how we got here. I didn't answer. She broke down right there on the couch, full on crying, hands in her lap, chest shaking. And I didn't move. I didn't sit beside her. I didn't reach for her. I watched for a second, then turned and walked down the hall to the guest room. Closed the door. Locked it. Not for drama. I just needed the space. My space. That room was cold and stiff, smelled like old paint and cardboard. I laid down on the extra mattress and stared at the ceiling fan. No TV, no noise. Just me and the quiet. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't regret it either. Next morning, we passed each other in the hallway like co-workers. No eye contact. No words. Just that weird tension hanging in the air like steam after a shower. It went on like that for days. She made dinner, left mine covered on the stove. I didn't touch it. I made my own or just grabbed fast food on the way home. We didn't fight, didn't talk, just existed under the same roof like strangers. Every time I heard her footsteps or the hum of her phone in the other room, I felt more distant. Not just from her, from the guy I used to be. I started looking at myself in the mirror differently, noticing how tired I looked, how quiet I'd become, how small I'd made myself just to avoid conflict. That wasn't me. That wasn't the man I wanted to be, and sure as hell not the kind of husband I was proud of being. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just exhausted. And when the exhaustion settled, all that was left was clarity. If this was what my marriage had become, a cold, quiet standoff, then maybe it wasn't worth saving. By the fifth night in that guest room, it all clicked. I wasn't happy. And the truth was, I hadn't been for a long damn time. I'd been convincing myself we just hit a rough patch, that if I kept adjusting, kept sacrificing, kept holding back my own needs. Eventually, she'd meet me halfway. She never did, and I was done pretending that was okay. It hit me while brushing my teeth, of all things. I looked in the mirror and thought, this can't be what marriage is supposed to feel like. Quiet, distant, heavy, like I was begging to matter in my own home. I dried my face, walked down the hallway, and stopped in the doorway to the living room. She was sitting on the couch, legs tucked under her, TV on, but not really watching. She glanced over, startled. Hey. I didn't sit down. I stood where I was and looked her straight in the eye. I can't do this anymore. Her whole body tensed. What do you mean? I mean this. Us. Whatever the hell this is right now, I'm done pretending it works. She sat up, eyes wide. Wait, are you saying you're leaving? Maybe, I said. I'm saying we need space. Real space. Time apart to figure out if this even makes sense anymore. She shook her head. You can't just drop this on me. I stayed calm. I'm not dropping anything. I've been carrying it for years. You just never noticed. Her voice cracked. So what? You're walking out? Just like that? No, I said. I'm walking because of everything that's led up to this. And if you didn't see it coming, that's part of the problem. She got up, came toward me like she was going to grab my arm. I stepped back. Not harsh, just enough. I need space. For real. Not just a night in the guest room. I need to figure out what the hell I want out of my life. She blinked fast, trying to hold it together. But I thought we were trying again. No, I said. You were reacting. I was testing. Neither of us was actually rebuilding anything. Silence filled the room. TV still running in the background like white noise. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel scared. I felt clear, like I'd finally taken the wheel back. She didn't say another word. Just stood there, frozen. I turned around, walked down the hall, and started packing a bag. I zipped up the duffel, slung it over my shoulder, and walked out. She was still standing in the living room when I passed her, arms folded, eyes red, but not a word came out. No begging, no blocking the door. She let me go. I got in my truck, heart pounding but steady, and drove until the town lights blurred behind me. Pulled into the first cheap motel I found just off Route 9, one of those places with buzzing neon signs and cigarette burns in the comforter. The room smelled like old smoke and bleach, but it was quiet. Just me, the hum of the AIC, and a bed that didn't have history soaked into the sheets. I lay there staring at the ceiling for hours. My phone lit up once, a bank alert, not her. I didn't sleep much that night, but I wasn't restless. I just kept thinking, now what? Woke up early, grabbed a stale coffee from the lobby, and sat in the parking lot for half an hour watching the sun come up over a gas station. It felt jarring, being out of the house, away from all the noise and routine, but it was freeing too. Like I could finally breathe without bracing for something. Day 2 passed without a single word from her. I kept checking my phone like a habit, not out of hope, just reflex. Nothing came. Day 3, just after lunch, my phone buzzed. Hey, that was it. No, where are you? No, can we talk? Just a casual hey, like she hadn't watched me walk out the door 3 days earlier. I stared at it for a minute, then called her. She picked up quick. Hey. Yeah, I said. Hey. Silence. Then, I don't know what to do. Her voice didn't have that usual edge. No control. No walls. Just raw confusion. She sounded like someone who realized too late the ice beneath her feet had already cracked. I waited a beat. Neither do I. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I didn't think I'd have to. Another pause. I could hear her breathing. You coming back? She asked. I don't know, I said. Not unless something changes. What does that mean? It means I'm not walking back into the same house, same silence, same version of us. She didn't argue, didn't cry, just let out a soft, tired, okay. That was the most honest response I'd heard from her in months. I hung up, tossed the phone on the bed, and leaned back in the motel chair. Still didn't know what came next, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck. The days stretched into weeks. We texted here and there, nothing deep, nothing emotional. Mostly check-ins. Just enough to know we were both still circling the wreckage. I stayed in that same cheap motel for a while, then moved to a short-term rental on the edge of town. Bare mattress, folding chair, microwave on a box, nothing cozy. But it was mine, and it was quiet. She texted one night around 10. I started seeing someone. A counselor. I stared at the screen for a while, trying to figure out if it was a move toward healing or just another play for control. Still, it was something. I replied, "Good." A few days later, she called. "I want to try again." Her voice was soft. Not demanding, not defensive. Just tired. But I wasn't ready to give her hope. "I'm not coming back just because you want me to." "I know," she said. "But I'm trying." I've heard that before. She didn't argue. Just said, "Yeah, you have." That was new. Her owning it without the usual spin. I wanted to believe her. Some part of me still wanted us to work. But there was this louder part now, the one that had finally learned what it felt like not to be invisible. I couldn't shut that part up. She started texting differently after that. Less blame, more accountability. She asked how I was doing. She didn't throw guilt or talk in circles. I noticed it. I appreciated it. But it still felt like watching a fire after the damage had already been done. Sure, the flames were smaller, but the house was still ash. One night, she texted, "If I showed you I've changed, not just told you, but showed you, would you come home?" I waited before answering. Thought about it for an hour. Then finally replied, "I'd only come back if I saw real change. Not temporary fixes. No more promises you don't keep. I'm not going back to who I was just to make this easier for you." She didn't respond right away. And when she finally did, it was short. "Okay, I hear you." I put the phone down and sat in that silent, empty room. I wasn't angry. I wasn't aching. I just felt clear. Steady. She might have been ready to try, but I wasn't ready to forget who I'd been in that house. Not anymore. A month passed. No drama. No screaming matches. No begging or door slamming. Just this slow, steady fading. Like we both knew it was over, but didn't need to say it out loud anymore. I filed for separation on a Tuesday morning. Walked into the courthouse, filled out the paperwork, and handed it over without hesitation. It didn't feel heavy. Just necessary. She didn't fight it. She signed everything 2 days later and dropped the envelope off with a quiet, "I understand," in the subject line of her email. No text. No call. That silence hit harder than I expected, but not in a painful way. It was more like finally exhaling after holding my breath too long. Like my body had gotten used to tension, and now it didn't know what to do with peace. I started going out again. Nothing wild, just reconnecting with old friends I hadn't seen in years. Met up with Dave and Tyler at the bowling alley. Grabbed beers on Saturdays. Talked about sports, work, dumb memories. All the stuff I used to do before I got swallowed up trying to fix a one-sided marriage. Weekends became mine again. I hiked. Sat at the lake. Worked on my truck. Nobody asking where I was. Nobody sulking in the next room if I didn't rush back home. It felt good. Real good. Every few days, she'd send a message. "Had a breakthrough in therapy today. Just finished reading that book you mentioned a year ago. I understand things I didn't before." I'd read them, sometimes. But I stopped replying after the second week. Not to be cold, just because there was nothing left to say. I wasn't angry anymore. That was the strangest part. I used to think I'd feel rage or heartbreak or something sharp and dramatic when it all ended. But all I felt was done. Like I'd finally set down a weight she never even realized I was carrying. She kept reaching out, trying to prove she was changing, trying to rebuild something that already crumbled. I didn't blame her. I believed she meant it. But I also knew I didn't owe her my return just because she found her way too late. That version of me, the one who chased her attention, the one who walked on eggshells just to keep the peace, he didn't exist anymore. And I wasn't going to resurrect him for anybody. Some nights I still lie there and wonder if closure is even a real thing. Or if it's just something people say when they're tired of hurting. But even without that clean ending, I knew I made the right call. Choosing myself wasn't easy. I'd built a whole routine around ignoring my own needs. Pushed down what I felt so often that eventually it just felt normal. Like being half alive was part of marriage. Now, I sleep through the night. I don't flinch when my phone buzzes. I don't dread walking through a front door. That weight on my chest, the one I used to carry every single day, it's gone. And I can finally breathe like I'm allowed to. I've got peace now, even if it's quiet and weird and not always warm. Sometimes I think about how we were at the beginning. Before the resentment, before the silence. I remember laughing in grocery store aisles and singing off-key in the truck. It's like watching someone else's life, familiar, but distant. That version of us feels like a movie I only caught the first half of. She still texts sometimes. Not often. Maybe once every couple weeks. Random stuff. Saw your favorite chips at the store today. I went hiking. Thought of you. Hope you're doing okay. I read them, sometimes. But I don't reply. Not because I'm mad. I'm not. I just finally learned the one thing that took me way too long to understand. I don't owe anyone more than they're willing to give back. That includes her. I gave everything I had for years. Pushed aside my own needs, bit my tongue, kept the peace. And for what? So I could keep pretending we were okay? Not anymore. Now, I choose me. And I don't feel guilty for it.